Hello and welcome to the Old Cape Henry Lighthouse. This is the first lighthouse built by the United States government, and let me tell you why we think she's pretty special. In 1720, colonial governor Alexander Spotswood requested the colonies of Virginia and Maryland work together building a lighthouse here at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. Unfortunately, Governor Spotswood's proposal was unsuccessful. Colonial officials tried again 30 years later in the 1750s. This proposal too was unsuccessful, primarily due to a lack of funding and cooperation between the colonies. Finally, by the early 1770s, both colonies had reached an agreement. Officials selected white-gray Aquia sandstone quarried from northern Virginia as the building material for the lighthouse. Laborers brought the stone down to Cape Henry, where it would sit untouched for another 20 years. After the Revolutionary War and the creation of a brand new United States government, the first session of Congress passed the Lighthouse Act in 1789. This act called for the building of new lighthouses and navigational aids. It also brought existing colonial lighthouses under federal control. Congress placed lighthouses under the authority of the Treasury Department, at the time headed by Secretary Hamilton. Early lightkeepers were to be appointed by the President. Unfortunately, neither Hamilton nor Washington nor any other founding father ever made it out to the lighthouse. John McComb Jr., a young architect from New York, proposed an octagonal 8-sided lighthouse. The Treasury Department chose his design. Free and enslaved laborers began building the lighthouse in 1791. It would take a little over a year to complete the lighthouse. On November 17, 1792, the Old Cape Henry Lighthouse was officially lit for the first time, about 70 years after Governor Spotswood's original proposal. Reddish-brown sandstone makes up the majority of the main tower. The white-gray Aquia sandstone appears in the 20-foot foundation in areas around the windows and door. The lighthouse measures 90 feet tall and sits atop a 50-foot sand dune. The lantern room at the top of the lighthouse measured 140 feet above sea level. Early lightkeepers lived in a 2-story keeper's quarters next to the lighthouse at the top of the sand dune. In 1841, the Treasury Department outfitted the lighthouse with a Lewis lamp. Lewis lamps look sort of like 2-tiered chandeliers. There is a center support pole and then arms that extend out like spokes on a wheel. At the end of each spoke sits a lamp surrounded by reflectors. The Lewis lamp at the Cape Henry Lighthouse had 18 individual lamps. In 1857, the Treasury Department upgraded the lighthouse to house a second-order Fresnel lens. Fresnel lenses are made out of curved glass mirrors and prisms. They resemble an egg. Second-order lenses measure about 4 feet wide and 6 feet tall. This Fresnel lens at the Cape Henry Lighthouse did not hang in the lantern room, but rather sat on a pedestal. Inside the lens, the lightkeeper placed a whale oil lamp. Mariners 10 to 15 miles away could see the lamplight magnified by this Fresnel lens. After the Civil War in 1867, a cast-iron spiral staircase painted red replaced the old wooden stairs. The lighthouse settled into the sand dune in response to all this new aid. Within a few years, cracks appeared on the inside and outside of the lighthouse. These cracks worried lightkeepers and local officials. They proposed building a new lighthouse nearby. The new Cape Henry Lighthouse was completed in 1881. The new lighthouse is built out of cast iron panels painted in an offset black and white checkerboard. It is 165 feet tall. The new lighthouse still has its original first-order Fresnel lens in the lantern room. First-order lenses measure about 6 feet wide and 8 feet tall. Today, the light source within the lens is a 2-inch LED light bulb. Mariners can see the light from the new lighthouse even 19 miles away. Congress decommissioned the old lighthouse when the new lighthouse was completed. 50 years later, Congress deeded the old lighthouse to Preservation Virginia in 1930. Preservation Virginia is a nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving historic sites in the state of Virginia. The new lighthouse remains an active light operated by the U.S. Coast Guard. Now let's go see the view from the top of the lighthouse. Come on!
Inside the lighthouse, you will climb the same cast iron spiral stairs installed in 1867. There are 102 steps to reach the top, and this can take a bit. As you climb, you will notice windows on the east and west sides of the lighthouse.
3/4 of the way up inside the tower is a 9-foot ship's ladder.
these last few steps, we did it! Because the Fresnel lens is no longer up here, you will have a 360-degree view. The big body of water to the northeast is where the Chesapeake Bay meets the Atlantic Ocean.
Please see the additional resources linked after this video or ask any staff member for more information. And thank you so much for climbing the Cape Henry Lighthouse with me.